Hello, I'm your host, Billy Heilman, and welcome to Best in Tabletop Trophy Triumphs, where we interview Best in Tabletop Network tournament winners about their process for creating their winning list and where it goes from here. Still new to creating this show, so a reminder to everyone, there's about 10 minutes of open discussion where we lay out a high-level understanding of what army they brought and why they did it. And then there'll be a deeper dive of about 50 minutes in the members-only section where we will do exactly that, deep dive into unit choices, meta considerations, where the list goes from there. So who's on today? We have Tyler Bortel. You can learn more about him in a wonderful Chasing the Narrative that he did with Colin, where he explained quantum mechanics at what I found to be understandable, but that's because I actually like that as a topic. He's also one of the hosts of the Best in Faction podcast, The Next Generation, which he hosts much better than I host this podcast. And finally, he is a dabbling Tau player at local RTPs, but he specializes in Tyranids, and that's what we're here to talk about today, is his journey with Tyranids. So Tyler, you brought new Tyranids to the Games Workshop Seattle Open. Leading into the event, the general chatter was that Nids were an overtuned book, and I believe my understanding is that 5 of the top 6 players were Tyranids, so that chatter might be correct.
Placings 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 were bugs. Yeah, Hank came in 6 with Craftworld.
So technically, 5 were the top 6, and all of them were the top 5. So I will admit my expertise in bugs is limited. Why were they able to perform so well? Is it the math? Is it structural problems in the book? Just brief soapbox about why are Nids so good.
For sure. So it's 2 or 3 things probably. The first one is easily the points. You look at data sheets like the Pyrovore, like the Ravener, like the Hive Tyrant, like the Maleceptor. These are just units that the stats to points ratio just doesn't make sense. A Pyrovore is toughness 5, 5 wounds, 3 up armor for 30 points. And then it also happens to have Greyarth Ashmantle's Flamer just like stapled to its backpack. There's a lot of nonsense there. So the points are a big thing. The second one is a couple of just like highly overtuned points of uninteractivity. Tyrant Guard are making our 12 wound monsters just untargetable at all times, basically. Encircle the Prey being able to go out, score points, and then leave means that we are better at staring contest than any other book in the game by far. And then we have the like fundamental mechanical mismatch that is the Maleceptor, where if you can't kill a toughness 8, 3-up save, 4-up invuln transhuman monster very quickly and very directly and without putting your entire army on the line, you'll just get tabled before any of the other interesting stuff even comes into effect. So that's kind of the both sides of the coin.
So it is both a math and a structural issue. And, 400 extra points added on top and then changing some of the rules is the conclusions that you've come to. But we'll talk about how you got there over the course of the rest of the hour. Yeah? I see sad nodding.
It's kind of the best of times and the worst of times to be a bug player right now, because on the one hand, you win tournaments and do very well in them at least. And on the other hand, it doesn't feel like I'm doing nearly as much of the lifting as the book is, and that's just not where I really want to be as a player.
Fair enough. You have suffered through a lot of bugs being in the lower levels, and from my conversation with you learned a lot about what makes them tick. And I want to, in the members only section, discuss a lot of those maneuvering tricks that you have learned when you couldn't kill your opponent, and now how when opposing models actually die, what the game looks like from that. But before we get into that, could you just briefly run through your list? We'll have it posted directly in the show notes below so people can see, unit by unit, but just at a broad strokes, what do you have?
For sure. So it's a battalion and a patrol of Leviathan. Obviously, what's in what doesn't super matter. HQs wise, we've got 3 of them. We've got a Hive Tyrant with wings, with the Reaper of Obliterax and Adrenal Glands. We've got a Hive Tyrant on foot with 2 heavy venom cannons because GW said that was okay for some reason. And he's got Pathogenesis and direct guidance. We got a Neurothrope rocking around with the Hive Tendrils to hand out her ability twice. Troops-wise, we got 2 squads of 10 gargoyles, a squad of 5 warriors, and a squad of 3 warriors. The warriors all have death spitters and bone swords with a lash, bone, and venom cannon on 1 dude in each squad. Fast attack, we're looking at the Parasite of Mortrex with Alien Cunning and the Gestation Sack, as well as a unit of 5 Raveners with Death Spitters and Rending Claws. Elites, we got a whole bunch of stuff. 2 Maleceptors are kind of the headliners, but we've also got a squad of Venomthropes, a squad of Zonethropes, a squad of 5 Tyrant Guard, with mostly Talons. 1 dude has a Lash Bone. And then, what else is in there elites-wise? I'm forgetting something, I'm sure. It'll come back to me. Nope, no Pyrovores on my list. Couldn't get them in time. And then heavy support-wise, we got a pair of Biovores, which I very much did like taking advantage of. And I believe that's about a wrap on what we had going on.
So more medium to big size bugs.
Yeah, the sort of consensus among the Nid players who are, sort of getting these results, myself, Lennon, McDougal, Goal, Tremble, etc., is the medium bugs seem to be where the real sauce is. Some of us longtime bug players, especially Alex and I really wanted the Horde to be a thing. We tried Hormagaunts, Termagants, maybe Gargoyle spam, something. None of it sticks just yet, at least. And on the other end of the spectrum, we had a lot of people really excited about Carnifex spam.
Yeah.
I think it's good. Absolutely it is. But we're trying to figure out the best thing in the book right now. And that has to be the most criminally undercosted stuff is all in that mid-tier 40 mil, 50 mil bases, 4 or 5 wounds kind of nonsense. So that's where a lot of the points get dedicated.
And it seems like that one allows you to skew up or down, whereas a big bugs, there is a specific set of tools that deal with discrete big models. There's a different specific set of tools that deal with massive hordes, and you're sort of in that sweet spot where there's nothing great at answering you. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. Because we're talking about a unit that is -1 to hit, -1 to incoming strength, toughness 5. So bolters and mass fire doesn't really do a ton to it, especially if you can be in cover. But on the other extreme, we're talking about warriors who are transhuman. Because I'm playing Hive Fleet Leviathan, if I hadn't mentioned that. So they're not, and they can often have invulns all over the place. So your giant anti-tank shot's not necessarily great at either. And no one's really taking autocannon style firepower right now, which is what you probably want to deal with mid-tier bugs.
For sure. And then just one question on that, because again, this is the first time where I haven't interviewed someone with elves, so I don't know all of your rules by heart. Leviathan is transhuman for everything, or is it baby transhuman?
So it's all this. There's 2 competing rules here, and people get them confused. There's the Leviathan chapter tactic, and there is the Neurothrope synaptic imperative. Leviathan chapter tactic is synapse creatures get full transhuman. Everything else gets baby transhuman within 12 inches of synapse creatures.
Right.
And then there's the Zonethrope imperative, which you can either call for a turn or cast as a spell if you're playing Leviathan. And that is 4-up invulns for monsters and 5-up invulns for everything else. So warriors will have full, if they're both active, have 4-up transhuman, 5-up invuln. Carnifexes have 4-up invuln, 3-up regularly on baby transhuman. Raveners have baby transhuman, 5-up invuln. So those are sort of the 3 possible variations.
And that's super easy to keep track of, and absolutely not an annoying thing to have to explain to people.
Definitely. And the fact that and the imperative is range 6 inches from synapse, and the Leviathan is 12 inches, just to be, not at all confusing.
Nice and grokkable. I appreciate that. Yeah, because when I was doing what minimal research I did, I was looking through the data sheets, and it looks like the weakness that seemed to be built into a lot of those medium bugs was a 4-up armor save, so that they were theoretically not saving anything, but if you can give them all transhuman and invulns, that sort of breaks that built-in weakness.
The big bugs are theoretically the book. Yeah. It looks to me like it wants to be balanced around. Big bugs only have a 4-up invuln for 1 turn,
right? And
little bugs don't have very good armor saves,
right?
The problem is there's an exception to both of those rules, which is that Maleceptors and Hive Tyrants have 4-up invulns all the time, and Pyrovores have a 3-up armor save, and if you go into a Lurk Hive Fleet, which none of us did but is very appealing, they can have +2 to their cover. So you can get around both of these things, but fundamentally that's supposed to be the idea.
Right. And figuring out the holes that GW left in their rules is often the best way to start out with a new book.
Unfortunately.
We could have a long conversation about the playtest process, but I don't believe either of us are playtesters, and so it would just be screaming into the void. So with that,
call me GW. I'm always, my phone's always on.
Yes. And actually, you're one of the one of the reasons I'm glad you're on the show is you're one of the more intellectual players. You actually think about why you get the results that you have, and that I think would be useful in a useful type of voice in the larger process. That said, if you want to hear Tyler's thinking about all of these choices that he made, this is where you have to click the subscribe button, and you will have access to the members only section, which is the second half of this episode. Many of the chasing narratives, bit reps. There's a load of fun information on the other side of the members only wall. Please
Fight
join
Club
us.
after party.
I am horrified to think about what that would look like. But please join us there for the rest of the conversation.